Hi, this is Robert Weaver. I'm the director and neuropsychologist at the Weaver Center. And I've really appreciated getting emails and questions, and this has been very interactive for me. So I really appreciate all of that. And of course, the comments and questions for this period of time are we're getting report cards. It's the end of the term. Our kids are maybe not doing as well as we thought. We know that a lot of this is review at the very beginning, and we're just a little bit concerned, and maybe not that much, but we just would like to have some advice on what kinds of things might we consider talking with our kids or the school or teachers or whatever about that might really help us get the best grip on how things are going for our kids in school. So, first of all, it's really nice to be able to go over any reports or grades or comments or whatever at first by yourselves as parent or parents, right? And you want to really focus on what's positive, okay? In the conversation with your kids, you definitely want to, anything that's like this, I mean, this is their job score. So it's quite serious, even if they don't make like it. This is how they're doing, okay? So what you would like to do is to make sure that any conversation that you have starts with positive, good feelings about the conversation, and make sure that when you have at the end, you want to circle back to all the things that are really good. You would like to have these conversations not be feared by your kids. You'd like to have them be welcomed. Okay, so positive comments about real things, right? Not you're just great because you're just great, but this is about how you're actually doing and the positive things that people have said or the grades that you've had, especially if you've had difficulty in one subject or another and you're doing a little bit better. Right? So that's a very broad statement, but very, very, very important statement. The other thing that you'd like to do is just ask your kid, your student, so are there things on this report card? How do you react to them? What do you see first? What would you like to change, if anything? Is there things that you would like to see differently for your next report card? We're happy with this. We know it's hard, or you've got some struggles or whatever, but so what do you think would be good? And again, you can kind of begin to say, well, how do you think you're, depending on the age of your student, even adolescents, right? It's important to be able to interact with folks, even if they say, no, I really don't want to do that. And you say, well, listen, I'll tell you what, I'll reward you big time if we can have this conversation. Adolescents usually go for pretty nice rewards. Anyway, so it's a nice way to be able to collect the attention if, in fact, you need to. So the kind of areas that you always want to be able to ask some questions about, right? Is it easy for you to participate in this class or at this time? Do you feel like you can ask questions or answer questions? Do you feel like you're able to and comfortable in approaching the teacher to be able to ask questions? Self-advocacy and asking questions is one of the most important things we do here at the Weaver Center. We have really nice systems for developing what we feel are lifelong skills in self-advocacy. But asking teachers how they can help you, asking peers how they can help you, asking teachers how you can help them. There's lots of things that sometimes teachers would have you do, but to be able to engage and have a good attitude in the classroom is extraordinarily important every single year. So you talk about participation. How's the homework? What about the classwork? Do you feel like things are going well with your friends or peers? Is there any bullying? Do you see it, or do you experience any of it? Do you do any of it? But again, with as much lightness as possible, allowing them to just answer questions and try not to make too many statements, because those could be resistant pretty easily. But when you say, so how do you think Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so is doing in terms of teaching you? Do you feel comfortable there? Is there a way that we could help feel more comfortable about that? So that's a really general kind of very important systems to be able to communicate with your kid, get the information that you need, and just say that this is an important process. And it's part of our job, of course. The next part is if your child does have a special education plan, or an accommodation plan. As many of you might know that have one or the other, the special education plan is a plan that's developed for direct services to your child to remediate certain areas of need. And an accommodation plan is in the regular ed that gives the regular ed teachers accommodations that would fit you and your learning style better. And even in the special education plan, there's a whole set of accommodations. Right? So it's really important, and maybe not at the same time if it seems like it's a drag for your kid, but it's also really important. We always say, copy, review, and post someplace in your home and in their notebook their accommodations. Often when I start a meeting, an initial consult with a family, I often say, so what are the accommodations that you have? And it's very, very common that people haven't really focused too much on the accommodations, but that's one of the best ways of kids to have their efforts paid off in terms of their school report cards. Right? Now, we always emphasize the best we can that effort's the most important thing, right? Grades is secondary, because you know that if everybody's putting in their best effort, they're going to get the grades that they can best achieve. So it's always good to try to unemphasize the grades, and de-emphasize the grades, and emphasize the efforts. So to be able to make sure that, and sometimes students say, yeah, I don't really need that accommodation, or that's a really good one, or one teacher uses it, another one doesn't. But these are things that are really important to have kids begin to know. The more comfortable you are with them, the more comfortable they're going to be with them. They don't feel like they're so different if there's common and understandable conversations in the family setting. So those are very good things to be able to go over and to have some familiarity and some comfortability with your kids about. The next step, or another step, is to be in touch with the teachers. Emailing teachers, and especially one teacher at a time if there are multiple teachers. But emailing teachers is a demonstration of your care and interest and effort in supporting your child. It's just like having a child have a good attitude in class, even if they're struggling. So what kinds of things you just say, we'd really like to have, or I'd really like to have, or my child and I would like to have some feedback on how she or he is doing in class. Do you notice that there's reasonable participation? Are they doing okay with their homework, their classroom work, their participation? How do you feel like they're doing in that regard? Are they able to ask questions? Do you notice that when they need help, that's a very important thing for us? We want to make sure our kids are very, very comfortable in asking questions, and I use the word self-advocate. I think that's a good term to use for teachers when you're having this conversation. And also, it's very nice to say, is my child benefiting from the accommodations they're getting? So it allows the teacher to kind of maybe search the accommodations, know better what they are, and be able to help their child. And the more that your child can articulate and know, I often like to say, just as a little test for kids, let's make sure that you know this like any subject. What are your accommodations? How comfortable are you with them? Are you able to ask for them? Do you know that accommodations are really important? If the teacher for some reason doesn't know about it or doesn't allow them, or say, that's fine. You can just say, I'll come home, I'll talk with mom, and dad, older siblings, or other support services that you have, including the special ed person. Say, we'd really like to have our child become a good self-advocate and to really know their accommodations. Very, very, really important to do that. And then when you get the emails back, or if you haven't gotten them, just say, I'm just sending you this again because this is important feedback at this time of the year. And we really want to know the best way to move forward. Is there things that we need to do as a parent or as a family? Study time, managing videos, other things that might come up in terms of conversations that kids have in the classroom. But the main thing is, in terms of the communication with teachers, is to say, listen, we really want to support our child. And if you are able, and they say, well, gee, some tutoring or outside help would be, useful. Make sure that you understand or that you ask, do you think this should be content tutoring, math or science or English, or in the content of what's going on in the class, so that the student and the tutors can work on the actual material that's in the task? Or is this process-oriented tutoring that would be good? That is, organization. How do you go about learning? What study skills, organizational skills, note-taking skills? What kinds of organizational needs might a child have? And I encourage people to say, gee, if there's how's my child's mood? If you find that they're discouraged or anxious, there's a lot of anxiety for kids. We really promote therapy as a quality of life item, someone to talk to. No longer pathology. Oh, you got a real serious problem that you need to go to a shrink for. No, it's a time and a place to kind of talk things out that's safe, that's confidential, and especially around whether it's peers or teacher relationships or parent relationships or sibling relationships. These can all be important things, just like the basics of how's your kid sleeping? How are they eating? Are they getting some exercise? Those kinds of things, can all be very, very helpful in helping a child do better in the next phase of their academic work world. So, a lot more to talk about. Thank you so much for your. Somebody called me the other day, so that's really great. The number here is, let's see, 508-358-1112, and my extension is 213. So I got a nice call and appreciation of these videotapes. And of course, please always send me any feedback you want or any questions you have to our email here, rweaver@weavercenter.org. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. And don't hesitate to check out our website and see if you think that's a useful place to get some information. www.weavercenter.org. Thanks so much. I really appreciate your attention and your feedback from the other videotapes I've done. Thanks. Bye-bye.